there are too many heads right here, it messes up the camera angle. So I was told to sit here and try to look spacious. So there are going to be two heads right here. How are you?
So should we get it?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. It was just it's a whole other level of things to think about or not get distracted by.
We went on vacation.
I did, but it was which was lovely. It was sorry. It was a long trip back. So we were in San Diego yesterday and had a difficult time getting back. Our car broke down in El Centro, and my brother-in-law was in Yuma at the time because he was at the trip, and he drove back, and it was a dead battery. So we were able to get him another battery and swapped out from the AutoZone back on the road. But it added 2.5 hours to the trip home. In a car full of people and stuff, you know, and so that was a long day. I'm not really physically recovered from that yesterday yet. But it's good to be here.
So the air conditioner here isn't working.
And then I mean, at least they've got that one's fixed. Yeah. So that's cool.
So let's burn that one out circulating in this big space.
The fans do help. The people that are sitting closest to the fans do get a nice little breeze. Although I'm not sure maybe it's harder to hear. But the stream is now sounds good. You know, for the people at home, it sounds good. Okay here, aside from the warmth. And if the stream is good, that means ideally what we show in Goddard is good.
Thinking of a water stream.
Oh yeah. I'm just trying to wrap my head around today a little.
I'm looking forward to your angelic fight.
Oh yeah, I am too. I heard her. I heard the violin in the space is really lovely. It's a lovely sound.
It's as long as the heat doesn't warp the violin.
Both of our instruments might get a little out of tune.
Right. Once they get adjusted to temperature.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right.
Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. For those I haven't met, my name is Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, and I have the great pleasure of serving as minister of this congregation. Our community is as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert. Whoever you are, whoever you have been, and whoever you are on the path to becoming, I invite you to bring your full self here and now. We are a covenantal community, which means we make promises to each other about how we will be when we are together. And in these continuing times of pandemic, wearing masks, except when you're speaking from up here, practicing social distancing, and getting vaccinated are all part of our covenant with each other. So our hope, if you are here in person this morning, is that you are vaccinated as you can be. And if you are not, we invite you to join us online next week. If you have a medical reason for not being vaccinated, let's you and I just have a conversation so we can make sure we are staying in covenant with one another. I extend a special welcome to any visitors with us this morning. I see a number of you here in person, and I wonder if there's some folks joining us online. I invite all of you, if you haven't yet, to fill out a guest information card. There should be some on yellow sheets on a clipboard as you head out the patio doors. If you're online, Mary Weiss, our administrator, will post a link to that online guest information card in the chat soon. We will meet at social hour right after the service today in person. You can just kind of cross the patio, kitty corner to this building is our fellowship hall. There will be coffee, some snacks there, and time to get to know one another. We are not having Zoom social hour for at least this summer, if not into the other future. And I want to draw your attention to a few things happening in our community before we get going into our service. The first is that the 2022 auction committee is ready. And as you know, this year's auction will be virtual, all virtual, and the bidding has started today. So if you haven't had an opportunity to visit the site yet to get registered, you have to get registered in the auction system. Please make sure to check it out and do that. If you have any questions, you can see Barb Rika for the auction committee in Goddard after the service. So please do make sure you're registered and bid this week. And we have an HVAC project update meeting on June 19th, right after the service. So if you want to hear an update on the construction of the HVAC and bathrooms in this kind of corner of the building, our Bob Vint, our architect, will be here with us after the service on June 19th. Plan to say after to join us for that. That will be live here in Holland and on Zoom. And also, we have Reproductive Freedom Initiative petitions in Goddard for your signature. This is an initiative that's on a short time frame to get the signatures we need to tell our legislatures that we want to assure reproductive choice for all people. So if you want to tell your legislatures that, please sign that petition in Goddard. I think Margot Newhouse will have it. Welcome. We are so glad that you are here. Yes, thank you, Terry, for that music. I should have mentioned in our welcome that Terry Spinelli will play her violin for us today. Terry's been a member of the congregation for a few years, but most of them we've been online, so might be a relatively new face. Thank you, Terry. Our call to worship words this morning come from Reverend Kenneth L. Patton, and we will read them responsively, which means that I will read the plain words and you will read the italicized words. We arrive out of many singular rooms, walking over the branching streets. We come to be assured that brothers and sisters surround us to restore their images on our eyes. We enlarge our voices in common speaking and singing. We try again that solitude found in the midst of those who will seek the reckonings. Our eyes reclaim the remembered faces, their voices stir the surrounding air. The warmth of their hands assures us in the gladness of our spoken names. This is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies, in the houses of worship. It is good to be with one another.
Good morning. My name is Celeste Rogers, and I have the pleasure of being your worship associate this morning. Will everyone please join me in our chalice lighting words by Reverend Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create, a deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. If you have a chalice or candle at home, please light it now as we light our chalice here in Holland.
Testing, there I am. Good morning. Hi. So this first hymn is a simple song that has 4 short melodies in it. And the melodies come in succession, but here's the trick. They can all be sung at the same time, and it sounds pretty good. I'm going to sing through each of the melodies and as we go through. But I challenge you at some point to not sing what I'm singing, to find the melody that registers and sits with you well this morning, and to just keep singing that. So if you're going, mystery, mystery, life is, and you just stuck on that, you can get stuck on that for days and it's not gonna hurt anybody. So I'm just gonna go through, I'm gonna sing each line twice, but you sing whatever you want and we'll start and stop as we go. As you are able or willing or want or desire, stand if you choose. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery, mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery, mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? What are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Like where are we going? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Thank you. Please be seated.
Buffalo, Tulsa, Uvalde, last night, Philadelphia. I am angry and heartbroken about the senseless gun violence in this country that has taken the lives of so many and destroyed families and communities forever. Our earth is strong. It can hold our pain and our joy, our love and our anger. Our shared bowl, which we use for joys and concerns each week, is strong enough to hold the big rocks, our collective celebrations and mournings, and also the smaller stones that will be added to signify our individual joys and sorrows. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining and scarce resource. Let us remember those who are walking through our desert right now without access to water. We pour water from a plastic jug, similar to the ones used by those seeking to assure greater access to water in the desert, like our ministry partner, No More Death. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, I invite you to go to menti.com and put in the code 44222752. If you are here in person and cannot access the internet, you can go to Brian Moon or go to Reverend Bethany, and she can type in your joy or sorrow for you. You are also welcome to come up to the table if you are here in person and put a stone in the water to symbolize your joy or sorrow. The pebbles create ripples of hope. Someone has written in, they're concerned about climate frustration. My joy is in community. Strength and love to Zach and Tisha Lema, new foster parents of twins with special needs. I have been reprimanded to not speak on the raw nature of systemic oppression at work or risk losing my job. How can one be an agent of change when asked to shut their spirit down? And how can I stay and move forward now that I've seen the true colors? Our joy is that we get to watch our daughter Terry add music to the service all the way from upstate New York. And our joy is that we get to listen to that beautiful music, right? Wading pools and water beads bring me joy. Thinking everything going outside my bubble brings me. I guess that's it. Our words of prayer, contemplation, and meditation this morning are from Reverend Nancy Schaefer, called That Which Holds All. Because she wanted everyone to feel included in her prayer, she said right at the beginning several names for the Holy Spirit, she said, Holy One, Mystery, God. But then, thinking these weren't enough ways of addressing that which cannot be fully addressed, she added particularities, saying, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Ancient Holy One, mystery we will not ever fully know, gracious God, and also Spirit of this earth, God of Sarah, Gaia, Thou. And then, tongue loosened, she fell to naming superlatives as well. Most creative one, greatest source, closest hope. Even though superlatives for the sacred seemed to her probably redundant, but then she couldn't stop. One who made the stars, she said, although she knew technically a number of those present didn't believe the stars had been made by anyone or anything, but just luckily happened. One who is an entire ocean of compassion, she said, and no one laughed. That which has been present since before the beginning, she said, and the room was silent. Then, although she hadn't imagined it in this way, others began to offer names. Peace, said one. One my mother knew, said another. Ancestor, said a third. Wind, rain, breath, said one near the back. Refuge, that which holds all. A child said water. Someone said Kuan Yin, then womb. Witness, great kindness, great eagle, eternal stillness. And then there wasn't any need to say the things she thought would be important to say, and everyone sat hushed until someone said, Amen.
Please join in singing as you will. Bring many names, beautiful and good, celebrate in parable and story, holiness in glory, living, loving God, hail and Hosanna, bring many names, strong Mother God, working
planning all the wonders of creation, setting each equation, genius at play. Hail and Hosanna, strong Mother God, warm Father God, hugging every child, feeling all those strains of human living, caring and forgiving, till we're reconciled. Hail and Hosanna, warm Father God, old aching God, gray with endless care, calmly piercing evil's new disguises, glad of new surprises, wiser than despair. Hail and Hosanna, old aching God, young growing God, eager still to know, willing to be changed by what you started, quick to be delighted, singing as you go. Hail and Hosanna, young growing God, great living God, never fully known, joyful darkness far beyond our seeing, closer yet than breathing, everlasting home. Hail and Hosanna, great living God.
They say that we are a faith of come-inners. That is, people who have come from different religions, different places, no religion at all, and found home here. They say we are a faith of come-inners. The stories of what people have felt when they have found Unitarian Universalism permeate our congregations. They are plentiful in newcomer orientations and check-ins when we give testimony and beyond. And there are good reasons to tell these stories. These stories remind us of the transformative power of our theology, of our communities, of our congregations when they are at their best. And I love hearing these stories. I love knowing that people have found home here. And when these stories accumulate so that we begin calling ourselves a faith of come-inners, I personally have to do some translating in my head. Because I was raised in this faith. I never left. I never came in anywhere. Which is not to say that I never lost my faith. I did, because I was pushed out. But when I came back stubbornly because I realized that I cannot remove Unitarian Universalism from my body. It is in my bones. For me, this is my story of, quote unquote, discovering Unitarian Universalism. When I lost my faith and refound it and realized it was here all along, even though there were no resources for me as a younger adult, I came back, but I never came in. Which is a very different story than the one about walking in and feeling like you have been always home. You've been searching for this place all of your life. It is instead maybe a story about being invited to the potluck, giving your dietary needs, and then being told that you're a little too weird, so you'll need to bring your own food. We all have translating to do in Unitarian Universalist congregations. The stories that you need to translate might be different from mine, but you have them. And they might not be stories. They might be words, phrases, concepts that aren't personally meaningful to you, but they are meaningful to your neighbor, to someone here. Translating is a constant struggle of a community that seeks to hold space for multiplicity, as Unitarian Universalism does. We are a non-creedal faith, which means that we don't have one spiritual text that unites us. The fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism gives us each the chance to lead ourselves on a, quote, free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Your spiritual journey is just that, yours. You have the freedom to believe what you will, but your search has to also be responsible. And to me, that means that we each need to create room for the freedom of others to believe as they will. True freedom is not just personal, but collective and shared. UU pastor and poet Reverend Ninan Soto once wrote, "Being free is not a license, but a promise." Listen to their full poem titled, "To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation." They write, "To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know, not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise." That fourth principle calls us to search our truths freely and responsibly. And the third principle of our faith reminds us that the freedom of belief is not just personal, but responsible to a larger multiplicity that we affirm. That principle says that we are to accept one another and encourage spiritual growth. Together, our fourth and third principles say in Dr. Takia Amin's words, "Come as you are, just as you are, but do not stay as you have been." We accept you just as you are. And there's an expectation here that you will work towards your own spiritual growth as well as the growth of our community. Which means we all need to get good at translating. Our hymn and prayer this morning are examples of how we can learn to translate, even expand our understandings of what multiplicity means by divinity, God, that which is greater than ourselves. When we engage in this communal translation, we can expand our compassion, our empathy for those who are different than ourselves. Because the goal is not just to accept one another, but to also seek to understand each other and to be understood in return. Here, we must seek to know and be known, to be free and create conditions of freedom for others. Because, as Ninan Soto said, freedom is not just a personal need, but a collective one. What happens if we just do the personal work and ignore all this translating and community building, understanding stuff? I think Jamili has a story for us that might help us explore that question.
God's Hat by Christopher Buse, based on a legend from the African continent that he heard third hand. Any resemblance to actual persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. Once upon a time, there was a village with a road that went right down the middle. One day, something strange happened. God walked down the road, and she was beautiful. They wore a long flowing robe, and on top of their head was a wonderful hat. All the people stopped to stare at God as she walked by, and they kept staring until she disappeared into the distance. Boy, God was sure beautiful, said one person, and what a beautiful blue hat she had on. Yes, God was beautiful, said another person from the other side of the street, but it wasn't a blue hat they were wearing, it was a red hat. You are wrong, said the first person. It was definitely a blue hat. No, you are wrong. It was definitely a red hat. As the two argued, others joined in the dispute. Soon the whole village was arguing. All the people on one side of the road were certain that God was wearing a blue hat. All the people on the other side of the road were certain that God was wearing a red hat. People got mad and started screaming at each other. Finally, people got so angry that they decided to build a wall that went straight down the center of the town. From that point on, the people on one side of the wall were enemies with the people who lived on the other side of the wall, and they never spoke to each other. On one side of the wall, the people built a church where they worshiped a god that wore a blue hat. On the other side of the wall, the people built a church where they worshiped a god that wore a red hat. Many years passed, and the people were still enemies. Then, one day, it might have been a Tuesday, God came walking back through the village. They were smiling and balancing on top of the wall that the people had built many years ago. This time, he was wearing no hat at all. All the people ran to the wall and cried, "You must settle our argument." "Yes," said one person, "the people on that side of the street say that when you walked through the village many years ago, you were wearing a blue hat. But we know better. We know you were wearing a red hat. So tell us, God, what color was your hat?" God looked puzzled for a moment and then began to scratch her head in thought. "I remember walking through this village many years ago," said God, "and on that day, I believe I was wearing my hat, that is blue on one side and red on the other." And saying nothing more, God continued to walk down the wall until she disappeared off in the distance. It was very quiet for a moment. Suddenly, there was the sound of one child laughing, then another child laughing, and another. Soon the whole village was roaring with laughter. Everyone was laughing because they realized how foolish they had been. As the sound of laughter grew louder and louder, the wall began to shake and crumble until finally it came tumbling down to the ground. For many, many years after that day, the people told the story of God's hat and how laughter had torn down the wall between a divided and foolish people. The end.
Thank you for that great story, Jamili. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church cannot survive without your faith, your confidence, your enthusiasm, or your resources. The offering will now be generously given and most gratefully received. If you are joining us on live stream, you can send a check to the office. Give online at uuctucson.org/donate or text 833-361-5796. If you are here in person, we have an offering basket almost carrying it over there, and if you would like to put your offering there now or later, you may do so. Thank you.
One person seeing red, another seeing blue, yellow, green, orange, purple, black. It's inevitable. Good, even. In this community, which honors multiplicity, it matters how we respond to that inevitability of difference. The story God's Hat encourages us to approach that inevitability of contradiction across human experience with joy rather than walls. How do we do that? Especially when multiplicity can feel like a threat. In the story, joy only becomes possible with divine intervention, re-intervention. But we are divinity too. We have the power to shape our world, our culture, our communities. We can create the conditions for joy at multiplicity. Part of manifesting this joy involves shifting from acceptance to understanding. We have in the past honored acceptance as the goal, but acceptance can feel close to tolerance, and nobody just wants to be tolerated, right? We want to be understood, to be known, so we need to seek to understand, to know others. Understanding, real, true, deep understanding is one of the pathways to joy in multiplicity. And understanding in a Unitarian Universalist context will take some imagining, some theological imagination, if you will. The minister, Reverend Jean Harrison Newyar, would suggest that we start with words. In her book, a really cute little book, Fluent in Faith, she wrote that words are, quote, essential tools of our imaginations. They define and they limit what is possible. That for which there is no construct in our minds eludes our grasp. For the most part, our lives consist of that which we know, which we can name, which we have words for. So when we in this community hear dissonance in the words we use, how might we approach that dissonance with curiosity, with understanding, with joy? In our Baja Force series on UU taboos in 2021, Reverend Samantha Wilson related gaining an understanding about spiritual differentness. She related it to multilingualism, to learning a different language. She said that language shapes who we are and how we are and what we understand about the world. Language is a doorway that can expand our sense of ourselves and our relationships. And then she asked, what does it mean if there are entire words, entire languages that we refuse to use, to understand? Being theologically curious, in part, understanding the words so that we can become multilingual, even if we don't believe the language we are speaking, is part of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. And it's important to acknowledge here, too, that theological words and concepts have been used to hurt people over time, right? Maybe they were even used against you to hurt, to ostracize you. And if that has been the case, I am deeply sorry that people and communities have used words and bad theology to oppress you. I see your wounds, and I feel my own version of them. And if words, concepts have been used against you, I wonder whether you might consider redefining, reclaiming those words with your own definitions as an act of your own liberation. Perhaps you might, in Stephen Covey's words, live out your imagination, not your history. Or take inspiration from Adrienne Murray Brown writing in her book Emergent Strategy, quote, imagination is one of the spoils of colonization, which in many ways is claiming who gets to imagine the future for a given geography. Losing our imagination is a symptom of trauma. Reclaiming the right to dream the future, strengthening the muscle to imagine together is a revolutionary decolonizing activity. Adrienne Murray Brown is specifically writing about the African American experience here, but that framework, that losing imagination is a symptom of trauma, is a symptom of colonization, is a framework that could be applied to other marginalized identities. because we deserve to dream and to imagine. And we need you to dream and imagine and stretch because we need us to understand us, empathize with us, imagine with us. This is what it means to be a UU. We are all on individual spiritual paths, and we come together to celebrate that and to support one another, not just with tolerance, but with understanding. Maybe a lesson we can glean from God's hat is not just that difference exists, but that when we let difference draw us closer together, have a common experience of wonder and joy, we create more space for that which is greater than us to be present with us. When the villagers let the disagreement divide them, God disappeared, and resentment and hatred grew. When God reappeared, and the villagers saw that they were just different, the wall fell and joy and laughter came. Their God was witness to that moment. And that divine spark is in us too, always accessible as we seek to cultivate joy at multiplicity. Goodness increases when we honor multiple truths. Holiness increases when we reach beyond acceptance towards understanding. I'll end the sermon part with some more words from Adrienne Marie Brown from her blog. There is an edge beyond which we cannot grasp the scale of our universe. That border, that outer boundary, is imagination. The only known edge of existence, the only one we can prove by universal experience. We can imagine so much. We can only imagine so much. If perhaps it is a function of our collective minds, a dream of our endless nights, then there will be abundance so long as we can imagine it. Abundance on earth, if we can imagine it, or abundance of earths, a sphere for every tribe and every combination. And to have it all we need to do is remember that there is an edge and to grow our dreams beyond it. May we dream it so. Blessed be, and amen.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place.
Will you rise in body and spirit and sing?
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices with each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's worth, then our heart is in a holy place. when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
May we go out into the world seeking to grow that holiness in us by trusting and listening and seeing and sharing sacred space. Go in peace, friends, with love and grace of your hearts.
Now, please join me in our words of chalice extinguishing from Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. Amen.
Yeah.
And he knows what field he's on. It's not to be I call it glorified IT.
Yeah.
Sign up for big training and
Right.
so forth. I think it's, you know the area, Air Force Base near Biloxi.
Oh yeah. There's a big
He
one.
expects to be sent there after basic
Okay.
in Blackburn or San Antonio.
Okay.
And Southern Mississippi starting in October.
Cool. Yeah. It's not a bad time to go there too because it starts